The present-day entertainment landscape is frankly the definition of something that has, well, something for everyone. The world of the internet and digital distribution has basically opened the doors for anyone and everyone to do really whatever they want. Maybe one type of music or movie or TV show isn't quite your thing. You've got an insane amount of options now, both new and old shows, movies, bits of music, what have you, to access. Maybe you're not up for Game of Thrones. You've got pretty much every type of TV show imaginable under the sun somewhere out there available at the push of a button. Maybe you're sick of American cartoons being nothing but fart gags. Now you have an insane access to all kinds of anime and other animated series out there for you to dip your toe in if you want something a little bit different. Maybe you want something darker, maybe you want something more violent, maybe you want something more cerebral. The point is, really anywhere there's something out there. No matter who you are, there really is no such thing as a show or a movie or a book or a piece of music or what have you that isn't for you. It's like being in the ultimate candy store right now for media geeks. Of course, this does then bring into question a couple of things, because naturally everybody's tastes vary. That's just part of being human. What's the point if we're all the same? But sometimes these tastes can naturally bring in other questions, to put it mildly. Of course, nobody denies you the right to enjoy what you enjoy, but then there are times when you might be viewing something and, well, it invites the questioning of your peers. But on the opposite end of it, there's the programming itself and asking questions about what its relationship to the audience is and whether or not it itself is appropriate to them. I feel the place to start off is with the former, and in the subject of just, well, sometimes there just isn't anything for you within a particular series that you're watching. Not in the sense that it's badly written or directed or poorly acted, but just it's not meant for you. This phenomenon extends particularly to the world of television entertainment made for children. It's no secret by now that the internet has a very interesting way of sustaining and breeding fan bases, and well, even shows that are essentially just about teaching you your 1, 2, 3s and ABCs seem to have garnered a pretty large adult following. Now, of course, I'm not trying to make claims about anyone here, but I have to kind of wonder, there's nothing really for you here. This show is just there to get the basics to kids and do it in a colorful and goofy manner. Or maybe it's just teaching a couple of basic moral lessons to children. Don't steal, don't lie, be nice to people, all that jazz. Why are you still, well into your high school and college days, interested in stuff like Barney or Thomas, or even recently when I was discussing The Lion King and the new show The Lion Guard, and I got more than a few, fans of the Lion King franchise complaining about it, and I'm like, but this isn't for you. Why do you care so much? I mean, surely, when you're at the age when you're about to consider getting into the world of work, maybe you're settling down for a relationship, maybe you think of moving out of the house and finding your own place, shouldn't you be enjoying entertainment that's a little more appropriate for your age? I mean, I get it, not everyone has to watch Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, but surely if you prefer maybe lighter entertainment, there's plenty of series out there that do cater to that. Plenty of comedies, plenty of action shows. If you want something with fantasy, but that's not super serious, might I recommend Warehouse 13, for example. Now, of course, relative to the grand picture, these groups are in a minority, but still, it's surprising that they even exist, and it does beg the question about the way that people interact with entertainment, and in particular, the power of nostalgia, which, if you followed my channel for a long time, you know I'm no stranger to discussing. When does nostalgia become, corrosive? When does it become toxic? When does it become something that impairs? Some of these individuals like to use the nostalgia card as an excuse for why they like what they like. And, look, enjoy what you enjoy at the end of the day, because, hey, life's too short, and why should anyone really give a damn? But if you never grew out of it, if you never changed your relationship with it, how can you be nostalgic for it? Nostalgia requires a period of time where you are disconnected from it in order to be nostalgic for it. For example, I haven't seen Darkwing Duck in the better part of nearly a good decade, and I have nostalgia for the show, but that's genuine nostalgia. It's not some kind of continuous bond that I've had with the series for years and years, well after it really exceeded my age range. Of course, the difference there, unlike these shows, is that entertainment like that and, say, Batman the Animated Series transcend, they grow with the audience, or maybe they have something more to offer. Whereas stuff like this preschool entertainment, it's got nothing else going on. Sure, it might make for some funny YouTube poops, but inevitably one has to beg the question why you still are interested in this type of material, or even getting worked up over kids' entertainment in general. Frankly, if you've used the internet at all and you've frequented places like IMDb, you're probably no stranger to going onto forums and seeing people complain about everything from cartoons to live-action kids shows in ways which really do scratch one's head, because they're not complaining about the shows being bad for children so much as they're complaining about the shows not being good for them. Of course, this then leads into the other half of the whole business of today. When is a show perhaps not appropriate for its target range? When it deliberately sells itself to a certain audience, and then it does things that invite a lot of questioning on whether or not this is right. Now, if you know me and you know my views on film and television, and in particular if you follow my work, you'll know that I'm a very firm believer in the idea that anything can work if you put the right execution behind it. If you get the right people to do it, the sky's the limit, really. There's no reason not to try anything. Sure, you're going to always deal with controversy and debate, but that's just part of, again, being human. People are going to have different opinions, and I've never understood this mentality of trying to make everything work for everyone. That's not how art works. Art is individual. Art is expressionistic. The moment that art conforms and decides to be just neutral, that's the minute when it stops being art and it just becomes another throwaway product. But there are certainly times where the controversy does come in and it does invite questions. For example, the recent series of Doctor Who had a whole controversy surrounding the episode Dark Water, which was the penultimate episode of the season, because there was a whole element there that involved death and the act of cremation being potentially painful to the corpses who perhaps had not lost all consciousness. Of course, in the end, it was all revealed to be a big scam by the main antagonist of that series, but it got a lot of people really, really irate, and the BBC got a lot of complaints about how people just couldn't deal with this. Now, on the one hand, it's important to remember that Doctor Who is an all-ages show. There are adult viewers in there. Some of them are just parents watching with their kids. Some of them are the fans who grew up with the series, possibly since the Hartnell days, or even more than likely the Pertwee and Baker era, otherwise known as the golden age of the 70s. There is no real accounting for taste. Some people will find it too extreme, others won't. Frankly, Doctor Who as an entity has never shied away from dark subject matter. Arguably one of its most beloved stories, Genesis of the Daleks, is basically parable to all the horrible things the Nazis did during World War II, and all sorts of questions about the ruthlessness and the ultimate question of morality when it comes to science, and whether the ends justify the means. But at the same time, certainly given the fact that the show has definitely pushed for a younger audience in recent years and tries to be very friendly and funny at times, it does beg the question, why go from that suddenly to the very touchy notion of death and what the implications are if perhaps when we die, we're not entirely unaware of things. Even though it was all revealed to be a scam, the idea alone is pretty horrifying when you get down to it. It's certainly about as dark as New Who has ever gotten, and it's not entirely incomprehensible to see why people perhaps got defensive over it. Or if we want to look at a slightly different example, shows like Family Guy and South Park, being crass blue-collar comedies, trying to tackle big social issues like racism, abortion, domestic abuse, and all this stuff, one has to wonder, should a show that primarily makes very juvenile kinds of gags really be the talking point for a lot of otherwise very serious and dark issues? I mean, people come to these shows for basically the yuck-yucks, the funnies. So is it the right place to be discussing this sort of stuff? I'm not saying that you can't have it, but really, can one go from, say, Peter doing a pop culture reference to Super Mario and then the next minute talking about, say, a wife in a domestic relationship that's highly abusive? Is that really the smoothest tonal shift that one can adjust to? And really within that we hit upon a key word in this discussion, which is tone. Is it tonally suitable, or does it tonally mesh well? The tone is how a work feels, what its general kind of style is. The tone of, say, Monty Python is silly and surreal, while the tone of something like The Dark Knight is dark, dramatic, and often morbid. So in essence, can a really silly, goofy, wacky show like, say, Family Guy go from pop culture references, slapstick, and toilet humor to suddenly addressing a harsh topic that affects millions of real people, and do it in a manner that isn't condescending nor is myopic? Is that something that they pull off successfully, or is it something that perhaps they do just because they think they can? Or going back to Doctor Who, just because they can do it, does it mean that they should? That's a question that frankly is a reality for many people out there, regardless if you're a writer, director, producer, actor, whatever, if you intend on seriously entering the creative field. All of us have very strong views on the world and how things should be, and the way we look at people and social structures and organizations around us. So when we set down to write a story, perhaps it's for an episode, for a movie, for a play, what have you, how do we treat that? And how do we get that across to the audience? In what way do we, say, treat, for example, the subject of political corruption in an adult play versus how it would be done in, say, Batman the Animated Series? It's a very fine line, and more often than not, a lot of people get it wrong because they don't quite understand the importance of tone, or they don't fully grasp how to handle it with any kind of grace, and it ultimately leaves you wondering why they even bothered in the first place. And that tonal question can apply back to the former idea about audiences. Should you, a guy who's perhaps studying a political degree or some kind of engineering, be honestly throwing away your time watching stuff that is aimed at a far younger audience range than you? Should you, who is about to open your mind to new possibilities, still be stuck within the kind of rigid framework that a lot of these shows function in? So that's what I want you guys to do down below. Sound off on what you think of this video and the subjects I've talked about, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.